So what you're doing is you're collaborating with these teachers and you're allowing for collaboration. You're not competing with them. The teachers themselves are not competing with one another. There's collegiality. And, I think that is such a healthy environment that you're creating. And you don't see that a lot in our teaching voice community. A lot of I'm going to be really brazen here. I'm going to be the brazen Aussie. And look, when I look at some of the social media posts, it really frightens me to see the way that people interact in some of those posts. I don't like some of the comments. I actually feel intimidated even with what I do, and I've had a successful career, but I would not dare pipe up on most of those because I feel that there's a lot of ego there, and I don't think that people are coming from the right place. I feel there's a lot of look at me and look at what I know. And the interesting thing, and you may not ever have thought of this, but when you read through those posts and those comments, how many of them actually talk about what their students are doing and the success that their students are experiencing based on what they've learned from that person? And that's when I get cranky and I think, okay, you might know this, but what are your students actually doing? Do they have jobs? Are they working? Are they successful? So, is it about the student? Are we losing with all this information overload? Are we starting to forget about the student here?
Yeah. There's a really interesting thing, I think, that is the difference between a performer and a teacher. With the performer, you're working with your voice, and absolutely anything that you take in is about your voice and how it's going to work, and how your performance is going to work, and how you're going to share what you do. The moment you become a teacher, it is no longer about you and your voice and your performance.
So
It's about
true.
in front of you.
Yeah, no one
And therefore,
cares.
no, no, absolutely not. If you want to sing loudly at your student, congratulations to you, but that actually doesn't usually help your student. So, as a teacher, your focus is very much about how that other person is improving, or how that other person works, or how that other person thinks. And your job then is to take what you know and morph it to fit that other person in whatever way is going to work.
I'm going to talk about what you've raised in the context of social media, actually, because there are a lot of groups out there, and the purported reason for the groups is collegiality and discussion.
I like purported. Can we put that
Yeah,
inverted bracket?
yeah,
Inverted commas,
yeah.
And can I
absolutely.
say they're not all like that? Can I say that
No,
there are a
no,
You
couple
can.
that,
I understand. Yeah,
yes,
and we know that some groups are there as to really just as promotion for those people, which is fine. That's not wrong. I just think it's good to be upfront about it if that's what you're doing.
sure.
But what you've talked about is that sometimes there is this parading of knowledge. There is this intellectual one-upmanship, and it happens
Yes,
a lot in our
yes,
profession. Now, I
yes.
don't know how much that happens in other professions, but I think one of the reasons why it might happen in ours is because the traditional model of singing teaching is you, the singing teacher, in a room with the student. There is not enough buddy teaching and collaborative teaching going on yet, nothing like enough. So people aren't used to sharing their practice. We share our practice on a daily
We have
basis.
been co-teaching for 25 years. And I mean, really, not just, we come together once a year to co-teach. No, every day.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and that's at the breakfast table. I did this with so and so, and I'm thinking, oh, I wouldn't have done it that way.
Gillyanne, eat your boiled egg.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's one of the reasons why, and it makes me very sad. So the only thing I would
Likewise.
say, because I've been reactive on social media, it's actually
Ah,
quite well known, and up goes the hand. I think it would be great if when people do posts on these groups, the purpose of it is to help other people. So think about what's your motivation. Are you out there on a soapbox? Are you wanting to show how much you know? Or would you like other people to understand better some aspect of something you've discovered or experienced?
mm,
And sadly, I don't think Facebook is used that way by and large.
no. And there seems to be a real bias also from the classical voice community. Some of the posts that I read, I can see that there's still very much a sense of high art and low art when it comes to CCM. And as a CCM teacher, um, people, we're doing really well. The CCM industry is making a lot of money. If you
And
want a
also,
job,
it's more popular in general. You only have to
Mm,
look at the
mm,
recording industry.
mm,
More
yes,
popular in general.
yes, yes.
Let me just
mm,
tackle this because we both come from a classical background,
mm.
and I always say that the way that most classical musicians, and not just singers but musicians in general, are trained is whatever you're doing, it's wrong. And that's
Okay.
it. That's it, really. So you just spend your entire life trying to get something right,
That's
Hmm.
certainly the way
whatever
we
that
were
is.
trained,
Yeah.
yes. Mm.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because although in terms of vocals, there are particular balances that you need to do as a classical singer because you are singing acoustically.
Mm.
That's the big number one, is that you are singing acoustically in a big hall against a lot of instruments. So you need a particular setup that's going to carry. I think where the problem lies is that people go, and that's the only way to sing. And I'm going, don't make me laugh
Mm.
because it's
Don't
so
make
easy.
me angry.
Well, for me,
Mm.
really, it's don't make me laugh because it's like if you put you as an opera singer singing a pop song, it's so obvious that you've had classical training that isn't appropriate for the task. And this is, I think, where the classical singers go wrong is that they have. I'm sorry, going to say they're going
There's
wrong
going to be kickback.
because they believe that the classical technique that they've learned, which is absolutely appropriate for their job, is the only way to sing. It's a
Mm,
Yes,
belief system.
mm.
yes.
Any time anything becomes a belief system, it loses its context and it becomes you must
Well,
or you must not.
our theme is one size doesn't fit all, and
Exactly. Yes,
the sub
yes.
theme to that is context is everything.
Context is
And this
everything.
is what we're talking about. We're not just talking about training a voice in a particular way. We're singing music, we're performing. Those musics are different. The performance cultures are different. And so therefore you can't just have one approach. And this
No.
this also goes for methodologies. You can't have one method that is going to fit every singer.
No.
That there's nothing out of the box there that can be
I
given to
agree.
everybody and work for them.
Can I
Yes.
just, there was one Facebook post that had me absolutely incensed.
You shouldn't read Facebook.
I
It's my
know
job.
I stopped reading Facebook years ago, but this is a few years ago when somebody said, this young lad has just come to me. He's 17. He's got a recording contract to sing country and western music. How do I teach him to sing properly without making that god awful noise? And
That's
I
so
went,
rude.
that is, well, just it's like everything wrong with that sentence.
That is,
Everything.
yes. Let's. Is
And
this
it's like,
person really a teacher?
yes,
This
I'm
is several
afraid
years
Oh,
so.
ago, I will
I'm
say.
afraid
oh,
so. But because I then, and he said, oh, well, it's so nasal and it's so tight and it's so this, that, and the other. And I actually went through the list and I put this up on the post and I went through the list and I went, okay, you are accurate when you compare to the sound that you are used to teaching and making, then the sound is, and I changed all his language from negatives to positives, which is this is the style, these are the style features, this is what the style contains. Why would you train somebody to sing a Mozart aria and not sing it in the style that it was written. You are doing exactly the same level of snobbery by looking at something like a country and western style and go, I hate that noise. I'm going, I don't care whether
Yeah.
you hate that noise or not. That noise is what sells. That is part of the style. And therefore, your job as a teacher is to analyze that sound and get somebody else to make it. I don't, excuse me, give a shit what you think. That's your job.
Yes.
I
And
was thrown off.
He was thrown out of
oh,
the
really?
group. Yeah.
It's,
No singing
Wow.
teacher.
That's harsh.
Yeah, it was, yes. No
So
singing
harsh.
teacher.
I was fairly harsh back, but that's all right.
That's okay.
No singing teacher should ever say, I hate that noise.
No, it
And
just means
I
you don't
have
understand
worked
it.
with students that have been told that stop that noise. I hate that noise.
I
Within the
was,
last
yeah.
decade.
Last time I was told that was when I was about 14 by the nuns at the Catholic school that I was going to, and I auditioned for the school choir, and I sounded like Tina Turner at
Yeah, hey.
15 or 14. And I obviously didn't have the aesthetics that they were looking for the choir, so I didn't make
Yep.
it in. But happily, I did join a band not long after that, and I was working 5 nights a week through high school and earning more money than all my school teachers. So I really didn't care about the choir in the end.
It's so fascinating, isn't it, that there's this sort of weird aesthetic that people go, you must or you must never. And I'm going, context. Context is everything.
Yes.
Well, I mean, we have a hearing aesthetic. Some sound, we make decisions about the sounds that we like and what we want to hear, and we don't realise that that is actually sort of in a cultural context.
When we
We don't
wrote this,
realise that.
we wrote This Is a Voice, and This Is a Voice is speaking voice, singing voice, ventriloquism, mimicry, and beatboxing. And when you write a book that has that scope, you
That's a
go,
lot.
any sound that anybody makes is being used professionally in the world somewhere. So there is no sound that is off limits. The only thing that is off limits is, can you make that sound repeatedly? And if you can't make it repeatedly, that's a risk that you personally are taking. But pretty much any sound vocally that we can make can be made healthily.
Yes.
So
And
can we stop all the bias and go, look,
yes.
this sound is legit?
Yes. And the other thing that's really frightening to me, because as you've gathered with my show, with my podcast, it's all about, self-care and personal development, personal growth. But I'm also trying to get back somewhat to the point where we look at the singer as a human being,
Hmm.
because my fear is that the singing teaching community is it's becoming more and more science based, which is all well and good, but there has to be a time where looking at a screen you'll see nothing wrong with that voice, but there is clearly something going on with the singer, and I have that every week in my studio. And especially at the moment, especially through COVID, where everyone's stressed out and maxed out, there's so many even young children that are in trouble right now. And how do you feel about science versus looking at voice from a physical, emotional, mental sort of standpoint?
Psychological. Yeah. I love voice science, as you know. My doctorate is in voice research, and I really enjoyed the science learning, particularly the clinical information that I gained from doing that study. And in a way, because that the clinical side is about how we do what we do, which is why I love it. So I see it as part of the learning about the physical skills that we do as singers. We talk a lot, don't we, about working with the singer in the room. And what you're talking about here is, what's the energy of that singer in the room, and what are they bringing with them? What are they bringing with them that particular day, which is what you're talking about over
Yes.
Zoom. and how can you work with that. I think the job that we do as singing trainers and vocal coaches is absolutely multifaceted, and I think those of us who do it well have an awareness of that. I would love, for there to be more of a learning space for singing teachers to do that. And I think that's something that we create so that they can use their skills of rapport, their own energetic skills, their own kind of physical awareness skills to help. We've talked for centuries about we sing with our whole body and with our soul, if we want to use it that way. So, it's not just a set of things that are going on in here and an acoustic output. It's much, much more than that.
It's not just movement of meat, okay? I mean, the whole thing
I've
about...
never heard that before, people.
I'm slightly worried about that one.
But the whole thing about I mean, there are certain things that we're talking about in voice science, because there's acoustics, there's physiology, which is movement of stuff. There's endoscopy, there's, needles and probes and all that stuff. Okay, there's several things that are, if you like, useful about voice science, and there are several things that are problematic. And the problematic bits are the bits I'm more interested in, because first of all, singing teachers will grab a single sentence from a voice science paper and go, you see, it proves everything that I've always said. And they take that sentence out of context. So, for instance, dogs have larynxes that do this, and therefore we all have larynxes that do that. And I'm going, absolutely not. Because what you have to then look at is, what did the paper examine and with whom? And then you start to look behind the paper to see how many people was it done on? Did they all come from the same building? Were they all taught by the same person? If they're all taught by the same person from the same university, then there is a bias there that's not actually, obvious.
Yes.
And then you look at, these 3 Japanese people did that, and therefore the entire rest of the world does the same thing. And I'm going, again, doesn't follow, doesn't compute. And that's even before we get to the person in the room. So in my head, the singer themselves, the creative artist themselves, the creative vocal artist is out there in front, doing whatever they want to do, being unbelievably creative, creating any sound that they want to make. The teacher is a few steps behind going, how did you do that? Just let me work that out a minute. Okay, now I understand it and I can teach other people. The voice scientist is many steps behind the singing teacher, because quite often the voice scientist will not examine anything until there's a large number of people doing it already.
Right.
Or they'll look at one person.
Or they'll look at one person who basically...
So they can control the variables.
Absolutely, yeah.
I just want to say a bit more about this. I think that we need more interface between voice science and the pedagogical community so that we can understand how to put into practice what we learn from voice research. That's what I would like to see. I would like to see platforms in which it's made more relevant to us. It's something that I personally really enjoy.
Yes.
Looking at voice research and thinking, well, now that explains this. That's really useful to me as a trainer. But we have to understand that scientific information doesn't necessarily transfer into a pedagogical model without some of the work going on in between.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's something very interesting, which is, if you like, it's the focus between teaching, singing teaching, and voice science. And the focus is almost opposite. Because what the singing teacher is looking for, a good singing teacher is looking for what that individual person in front of them can do the best. And how they can improve what they do so that it becomes them and their signature sound or their signature performance or them. It's like their, oh dear, here we go. It's like their soul in their sound. It's absolutely individual. When you look at voice science is looking for patterns across a much wider range of people. And therefore the individual doesn't count. They are therefore opposites.
That's a great way of putting it.
The two can come together,
Yes.
But you've got to understand where each one is coming from in the first place, and they are coming from opposite ends. So they can meet in the middle, absolutely, but you can't just literally transpose one onto the other. It doesn't work.
Yes. No, I agree. I agree.
I don't know if that answers your question, but that was
That was the long-winded
a
answer.
very long answer to your question.
What was
What
the
should we talk about
question?
next?
I don't remember.
So, okay, so just moving on, um, and getting back to vocal process and the brand. So you've come such a long way, and where do you go to next? What is next for you? What can
Um,
possibly be next for you?
Well, what we decided, I mean, and again, this is part of the a result of COVID and the lockdown and changing our own work life, is that we looked at everything we'd done, all the things that we'd created.
do you know, I don't think anybody actually, other than us, knows everything that we've done. Because people might know about a book or two, or they might know
They've
about a
done a couple of
webinar,
webinars,
they've done a
yeah.
course, they've got a DVD, but nobody actually knows what we did. So we decided to put everything in one place. So
Really?
every resource, apart from the books which are actually published by other people, but every resource that Vocal Process has published in the last 15 years is going into one place and
Must
going
be
to be
a
available.
big place.
It's got more than 500 videos in it. So
Okay,
it's
so
huge.
tell me more about this.
It's called the Vocal Process Hub, which
Yeah.
is our, if you like, our online
That's the,
school.
yeah, it's a big
And
holding
then
place.
within the hub is the Vocal Process Learning Lounge. And the Learning Lounge is where, at the moment, everything is held from 2005 to 2021. So we have all our webinars, all our lesson plans, all our DVDs. In fact, we've got streaming courses as well that we've done. There's all sorts of things in
And
there.
people can earn professional development points from
Yes,
some of these things as
yes,
well, so that they, if they, they answer the questions and they fill in the feedback form,
yeah,
then they can go to their employer and say, well, I've done 20 hours of professional training
yeah.
from this in this learning lounge.
And in fact, we're in beta testing right now, and it is due to launch on World Voice Day
Yes.
Only a
2021.
few days away.
I know,
Yeah.
I know.
Wow, this
It's
is
really
I
exciting.
mean,
perfect,
it is ready. I
perfect
mean, and
timing.
we are very excited about it. And you know what's been so nice is that it's that thing about realizing what you are. And we've already talked about how coming to Australia in 2019 was like having a mirror in front of us. And we decided to put all this stuff into the Learning Lounge, and we looked at it and we thought, my God, this stuff is good. This is
We're
our
actually
stuff.
we're watching stuff that we made 10 years ago,
Yeah,
going, that's really good.
yeah.
So it wasn't that you were sitting there cringing, which I'm sure a lot of people would be. You were actually proud of your work, and it was
Oh,
still
yeah.
relevant and still amazing work.
I mean,
Yeah.
having said that, Marissa, one of the other things that it does is that it shows
Excuse me.
us, as well as
Cough.
everybody else, it shows us the whole process that we've gone through. I mean, that's the name of our company, but it's the process that we've gone through, and the way that we teach has now changed. So there are certain things in the hub that we go, actually, we don't describe it like that anymore, or we don't do that exercise anymore, or what we said can't happen physiologically. We now know more.
Yes.
So the other thing that we're planning is vocal coaches react to their own stuff. So we're actually going to do videos of ourselves watching our own videos.
Yeah.
Like we call that goggle box. Is that it?
Yeah, yeah,
You're
we're,
going
Your
to have a
Goggle Box
goggle
with our
box.
own stuff.
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. So that basically we can say yes we believed that at the time. Yes, that was what we said. But now we go, no,
What a
that's not
great
correct.
idea. See, that would make good daytime TV.
Yep, I'm good with that.
Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it just? And the
That
thing
is
is,
incredible.
I think it's good for teachers to see that because
Yeah.
they see that there's growth. that our thinking has changed and our practice has changed over those 15 years, which is what we all need to do. Teaching is an ongoing learning process for all of us, I think.
I wrote an article a couple of months ago called Changing Your Mind is Human. And it is.
Not just a woman's prerogative.
No, no, men can do it as well.
Yeah, and I think the like one of the really cool things about what you're doing is that you're creating a legacy
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
And that would be for you so empowering also.
Mm.
It is, and it's been a big change. I mean, I don't know if you saw this, but I put on social media recently that due to really COVID and the difficulties of hiring a studio space and teaching students and the whole thing about aerosol spray. For us, if we were to go down to London, we've made the decision not to go down on a regular basis. And for me, I've been teaching people in London for 42 years. It's a big deal.
That's a long time.
And there was a bit of heartache with it. But what I found was that once, it doesn't mean I won't work with people one-to-one, and it doesn't mean I'll never go down to London, but we're not going to go every month. That's now not part of our business model. As we have created the hub, and as I let go of that need to be constantly in person, it's released more stuff in our brains. I said to Jeremy, it's a relief.
Oh, we've got a lot more plans.
We're letting go.
Yes.
We're letting go of our stuff so other people can have it, benefit from it. And of course, we're going to be training other teachers.
Well, the accreditation program is going ahead, and we've actually got meetings for that next week.
It's been revamped. No, it's tomorrow.
It's
the
tomorrow.
First meeting.
So we are now restarting our teacher accreditation program, and we're also expanding our teacher associate program, which is the next level up, so that the associates are going to start teaching our stuff as well.
Yeah, we want people to teach our stuff, not because it's a method, but because there are only so many hours in the day you can do. And it's now time to move on and let other people benefit.
We're going to oversee
by teaching and developing what they've learned from us.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is so well done. Congratulations to you
Thank
both.
you.
And that is true collaboration.
Yeah.
And that is true collegiality. And to be honest, I met you, Gillyanne, in, I think it was 2014 when I interviewed you for my PhD. And then it wasn't long after that we met in Florence at, I think, was that PVOC?
It was
in Florence?
PVOC, yes.
Yes.
I remember we went out to do that.
And yes, and we instantly became friends. And but you've always been a cheerleader, and you've never been a hater. It's like that's a strong word, but that's kind of the buzzword. It's either you're a cheerleader or you're a hater. And you've helped me out, and you've introduced me to people that have helped me as well, and you've done that out of the goodness of your heart. And I've met Jeremy, and I can see that you're the same kind of person, and you both deserve that. You are both very, very deserving. And I truly wish you all the very best, and I'll be there. I'll be supporting you. And here we are. I have my own podcast show. We're sharing this podcast stage for World Voice Day to show that we can come together, we can unite, and we can work together. And there's plenty there for all of us to do well.
Yes.
Yes. So on that note, I have a couple of what I call rapid fire questions. Okay. So just short answer questions. So I'll start with ladies first. Gillyanne, who has been your greatest mentor throughout your career?
There hasn't been any one person throughout my career. I drew a lot from Mary Beth Dane in the earlier part of my, sort of about 10 years into my teaching career. I would say that Tom and Sarah Harris have had a huge impact on the way that I work and the way that I think about the physiology of the voice. And if they get to hear this podcast, I hope that they realise the imprint that they have made on the teaching and the voice community here in the UK. And I was extremely lucky in my two supervisors, actually Professor Graham Welch and Johan Sundberg. Both had really strong
Incredible.
influences on me in different ways.
Incredible people.
And we do both. We haven't even mentioned talking about self-care. We have a life coach called Peter King, and we both see him separately on Zoom, of course.
Yes.
And he's been a huge help, both in our business and personal lives, hasn't he? He's actually helped us to navigate being a power couple as well as individuals. So I would say for the last 15 years, he's probably been my most constant mentor.
That was your short answer, wasn't it?
It was,
That
wasn't
was
it?
a
Great.
short answer.
I
I
finished.
like short answers. Sure, you haven't got Italian blood running through you? My answer would have been that long too.
Oh, is
Jeremy,
it supposed to be quick? Okay.
no, Jeremy, what about you?
Um, the interesting thing is, because of the sort of career that I've had, I've never had an icon because I've had to build my own career. It's never fitted anywhere or anything.
It's called
And
hustling.
yeah, it's called a portfolio career, apparently. I didn't know that until about 5 years ago. So I'm going to say Peter King, the life coach that I've had, because I've had him since I was 40. He's a couple of sessions was a present from Gillyanne for my 40th birthday. He has helped me understand myself and acknowledge what I do and accept myself. And that has been absolutely massive. And to me, that's actually almost the biggest part of self-care is to understand, acknowledge, and accept yourself and whatever yourself is that you need.
Yeah. And can I ditto that because I also have a life coach and her name is Tammy and she was perfect for me. She shouldn't say was because I still have Tammy. She was a law enforcement officer um, before being a life coach and a bodybuilder. So she was perfect for me because she takes no hostages. And
Mm,
yeah, so no, I know the importance of having a life coach and yes, unless you've had one, I don't think you can understand how
mm,
life-changing it is.
mm.
So okay, so this time I'll go Jeremy first. What have you learned about yourself over the last 12 months since COVID?
Um, I don't know that I can do that in a single sentence. Um,
Okay, you get two.
okay,
Three?
I do everything I do for a reason, and everything that I do where I am right now is acceptable.
Beautiful.
That's two sentences. That's pretty good.
Yes, no, that's really profound. Gillyanne?
Be authentic.
That's two words. That's amazing.
Be authentic, and you will attract the people who are your tribe.
Yes.
Love that. I'm going to put up little posts, put up those on a board. That's fantastic. So, okay, seeing it as it's World Voice Day in a couple of days' time, and this is a celebration for World Voice Day, and our underlying theme tonight has been about collegiality. But okay, so Gillyanne, if you had to give one piece of advice to our singing voice community, what would that be for World Voice Day?
It's not a race.
Oh,
Look around you, and you will see your colleagues walking along in the same direction.
That's glorious.
that is glorious. That was short too. I'm impressed. Okay. The British side of her is coming out now. The Italians left the room. Okay, Jeremy,
That one
what?
came up for me in my meditation.
Yeah, that's really nice. For me, try anything, believe nothing.
Mm. And where did that? What was your inspiration for that one?
Just thinking about the question, which is there are too many belief systems, and once you get into a belief system, you start to impose.
Hmm.
But if you try anything, you try it out, and you don't have a belief system, then you can discard it if it doesn't work for you.
Yes, yes, I like that. Well, I wrote mine down because I have a little piece of advice too. So mine is be kind to yourselves and do something that brings you joy every day so you can become a cheerleader for others in our teaching community. Take good care of your physical, mental, and emotional health and well being so you can show up being the best teacher you can possibly be for the students you train and the ones that you mentor every day.
Mm, that's lovely.
So that's my piece of advice. Well,
So true.
yes, look, it's been an absolute joy having you on the show. And honestly, once again, I just couldn't be prouder. I feel like the proud stage mother right now. But you're both doing amazing work. You know, just keep doing what you're doing. And, you know, I can't wait for the next chapter. So I can't wait for this hub. So if people want to find the hub, where do they
Yep.
go?
Yep. Vocal hyphen process hyphen hub dot teachable dot com.
Okay.
And that can go in the show
Yeah.
notes, can't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
So,
I was going to say, no one's going to remember that because there's lots of hyphens. And
Yep.
so I will put that information in the show notes and anything else, even for your podcast. If someone hasn't heard about it, which I would be shocked if they haven't, I would also put a link to your podcast as well. But thanks again and take care and happy World Voice Day.
Thank you, Marissa. Happy World
yes,
Voice
happy
Day.
World Voice Day, everybody. And this has been such a pleasure.
It's been
Thank you very
brilliant.
much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.